This is Dr. Barry Graham of Southwestern Christian College. We just concluded our first summer training series using student learning outcomes and rubrics in Schoology. We had some that were not able to attend, and we had difficulty recording that training session, so I'm going to record a summary of it, again with the idea that by going to the training site, step-by-step instructions are here. Here I am in the training course that's been created. To access it, just click Courses. It will appear as this icon that you're seeing before you here, Schoology Learn Together. Schoology Training 1. When you click on it, you will see the outline here of the materials. Everything is here, from saving your SLOs to resources to using the example rubric to editing the rubric, and then the Q&A session. And this is where we stopped. We covered half of this today, and so I want to make sure that this is available to everyone. Please notice that when you click on a particular topic, there's a page that's been created there. When you open it up, as promised, there are step-by-step instructions to do everything that we did in the training session, and there are some embedded videos with additional information. So with that in mind, let's do exactly what we covered in the training session today. The first thing you'll want to do is click on your resources, and we're trying to make sure that your student learning outcomes have been entered into your Schoology platform. To do that, go to Resources, click here. The second item that appears is Learning Objectives. We're going to click on that, and this is where you save your SLOs. Remember that what Schoology calls learning objectives, we call student learning outcomes. So just imagine that that's what it says, because this is what we use it for. And so as you open yours up, you'll notice that I've already created various folders for my courses, and I nest my student learning outcomes within those folders. This is the preferred way of doing it, so I'll run through that with you. To begin adding folders for your courses, click Add and click Folder, and just add the title of one of your courses. So let's say one of your courses was English ENG 131. That's what we would enter. You can enter a description of the course if you want, but that's really not necessary. Then just click Create. And if you've never created a folder before, it will be here at the top of the list. Otherwise, it will go down to the bottom of the list. You can see 3 instances of this course that I've already created for the previous training sessions. All right. Do this for each of your courses, and after you've done that, then you will have folders as you see right here. We're going to skip forward with the assumption that you've already created your folders for your courses. Then it's time to enter your SLOs. So click on one of the folders that contains the name of the course that you created. Again, you'll have more than one, more than likely. And then you can nest your SLOs, again, what they call learning objectives, within this folder. Click Add, and then you'll want to choose Custom Learning Objective. This is where you'll put in the title of your SLO. To keep it simple, just put SLO1. Or you can put a space if you want to, SLO1. And then this is very important. This is where you're going to want to enter, or you can copy paste it right out of your syllabus if you want to. This is where you will enter your custom learning objective, again, what we call student learning outcomes. So let's just say for this particular English class, the student will write effective essays with proper grammar, syntax, and vocabulary. And we'll click Create. Now we have our first SLO. What you will do now is you'll probably have somewhere in the neighborhood of 4 SLOs. We try to keep those not too big a number for each class. And then once you've entered them, the entire list of those will show right there. The nice thing about this is once you've entered them, they're available for you to use in your courses, and they'll stay there unless you delete them or unless you change them. If you do want to change or delete a particular SLO, use the gear icon here to the right. To edit it, click Edit, and to delete it, of course, click Delete, and then there's a couple of other options that we won't be concerned with right now. Okay, so we're going to assume at this point that you have created all of your SLOs, and that completes topic 1 in this particular session. We're now going to quickly move on to topic 2, which is using the example rubric. We're going to go back to the course, and we're going to see how this shows up on the training series course page here. Again, if you click it, here are step-by-step instructions to do everything that we're asking in the course. I am going to go through it with you right now briefly. To do this part of the course, we click on Groups. Please go to the SWCC Professional Development Group, and you have already been entered as a professor at Southwestern Christian College into this group. Click on it, and you'll notice here that we have the main group page. For our purposes here, we're going to go to the left and click Resources. Every group can have its own resources. We've created a folder called Shared Rubrics. Here we have an example discussion rubric. We're calling it Online Discussion Rubric Example. And what we're going to want to do here is for you to copy this rubric into your personal instructor resources so that you can edit it and use this as an example to learn how to do rubrics. So what we're going to do is we're going to go over here to the icon, the gear icon, excuse me, again, and we're going to click Copy To, and here we will click on the Collection field, scroll all the way up to the top, and click Home. That's the home collection there in your personal resources. Leave the folder field as it is, click Copy, and now there will be a copy of that in your own resources. So now we will click on Resources, and you'll notice that under the Home collection, again, I've got quite a bit of stuff here. You may or may not, but if you scroll to the bottom, there it is, Online Discussion Rubric Example. And if you'll notice on the gear icon here, you have some different options in terms of editing it, adding it to a course, copying it to, moving it to, and deleting. In this case, we just want to edit it. We can also do that in the same way by just simply clicking on it. A good thing to do is to generally kind of catch it at the bottom here where the mouse changes into an up and down arrow, and click and drag it down, allow yourself a little more room. And you will see here that every rubric has the option for criteria and learning objectives. Learning objectives, again, what we call SLOs, Student Learning Outcomes. And here we have an example of this that is already set up to the grading scale that is the official one here at Southwestern Christian College. We have Advanced, we have Proficient, we have Marginal Proficient, and we have Developing. We also have a way here, if we mouse over this plus sign, to add additional scale cells if we want to, but again, the only other cell we use here at our institution is a cell that would say something like emerging for the grading scale, and it would be a 0 if you choose to use that in your class. But again, in many of the rubrics, we just use these 4. And we would want to always have a title for our criteria, Timely Discussion Contributions. Again, you can take any of these text fields and edit them responsiveness to discussion, adherence to online protocols. And again, over here, it's very important that we always have a description of what is it that constitutes advanced for this particular criteria. Now, there's been some errors made here, so for the sake of seeing how you edit something, we're going to correct this. Here is okay, 5 to 6 postings well distributed throughout the week. That is what constitutes a timely discussion contribution. Proficient, what we would want to say is not 4 to 6 postings. That wouldn't make any sense because 6 postings is an advanced one. So if 5 to 6 constitutes an advanced, let's highlight this and change it to 3 to 4 postings distributed throughout the week. Over here, oops, let me make that little correction. Right there, 3 to 4 postings. Over here, we're going to say, instead of 3 to 4, let's say 1 to 2 postings, somewhat distributed, if we want to use that kind of verbiage. Here, there's a hyphen for some reason here on throughout, so we're going to take that out. We're going to edit it. And here, we would say maybe 1 posting throughout the week. 1 posting distributed. I'm going to take not out there. 1 posting, singular, distributed throughout the week. Here, let's change this to 2 postings, somewhat distributed. And again, we can always go back and change our verbiage if we want to, but just showing you how to do some basic editing here. We do the same thing to each and every one of these columns and rows, make sure we have exactly what we like. All right, and that covers the criteria. But what's just as important for our purposes in Schoology and for really any rubric that we're going to assess student mastery is we must have at least one what they call learning objective, what we call SLOs, added to the rubric. Please never create a rubric without one of these learning objectives. Otherwise, there's no way to align it with mastery in Schoology, unless this is going to be for an assignment that you're not going to be assessing mastery. So we click Learning Objective, and here we see why it's so important that earlier we made sure that we have our learning objectives, again, what we call student learning outcomes, available to us in Schoology, because now that we've saved them to our resources, they appear here. So notice when I click on Custom Learning Objectives, Personal, there's the folders that I created for all of my courses. If I click on Humanities, I've got my Humanities 231 right here. And again, these, even though I've labeled these a little differently, these are my SLOs. These are my student learning outcomes. I want to make sure that I'm linking at least one of these, or aligning, I should say, at least one of these with this particular assessment instrument. So let's just say, for whatever reason, I'm going to use number 2, that this was some discussion about the lives and contributions of significant philosophers and etc. Within pertinent civilization and empires that we study in our humanities course. I choose that, I click Add Learning Objectives, and notice now it adds it to the rubric. Now, it just simply copied this information down within the grading scale, so that's going to have to be edited. Obviously, what pertained up here to this criteria is not going to pertain to this, but it did bring in the exact verbiage of my particular SLO. So I would just simply go in here and begin editing. What is it that's going to constitute advanced in terms of what the student contributed to show that they had the proper knowledge of these lives of writers and artists and theologians and etc. So I go back and I put that material in, and once I'm done with it, I can simply save it. So once I save it, then I've got the altered copy of it. One thing that we want to look at doing here for the purposes of this particular training is we're also going to edit the title of this particular rubric. We're going to put our name. In my case, I'll just put Barry, and I'll put a little hyphen on there, and then I'll click Save. And now I've got one at the bottom that's labeled that. So later on, when we have you submit this or share this with a group, we'll be able to assess what you did, make sure that you have the hang of it, see if there may be still any additional help that you might need to that. And we will show you how to do that later. But this is the way that you will do basic editing and using the example rubric. Now, I will say that we want to make sure that we understand that when I was covering this, I did it so briefly and quickly that we also covered point 3, editing the rubric, which is a part of this course as well. So you kind of got 2 for 1 there. We covered 2 and 3 at the same time. And so we've basically covered that. So we will cover points 4, 5, and 6 in a later instructional video. Thank you so much for your time. We'll sign off here and see you next time around.